Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of According to Sacha Podcast. We're here with you on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We always have a new and exciting guest with us, whether they're entrepreneurs or film producers, motivational speakers, nonprofit founders, whatever it is they do in these entrepreneurial streets, whether it's an organization, private, nonprofit, whatever it is. We have them right here on this show. And so I thank you for always watching, always sharing, downloading, whether you're watching or even if you're listening on the streaming platforms. Thank you so much. Because once again, what you do for us on this platform, you do for everyone else that shows up here. And tonight I have another special guest. Her name is Rochelle Campbell. She has a nonprofit called Toiletry and Company, and she's doing some amazing things with her nonprofit and how she's impacting the community. And we're going to talk about those things tonight. But first, we got to run down the list, right? We know what we got to do. You got to like, follow, and share. Like, follow, and share all of our platforms. It is scrolling down the bottom. And, we just want you to be able to kind of continue to support us. And we thank you once again and all that good stuff. So I am not going to talk too much tonight. I am going to get into our conversation that we had with Rochelle. But first, I have a word from my sponsor, and I'll be back.
Noticing that your energy levels have been going down the drain lately? Like you just don't have the drive or the passion to do your best anymore? Do you feel like your life is slowly falling apart and there is just nothing you can do to make the situation any better? The Real Choices, Real Life podcast is meant to serve as a lifeline for those of you who need that little extra push to get your life back on track. Our motivational speakers and lifestyle coaches are here to show you how to navigate through your most difficult days. The podcast is hosted weekly and features guests who share their own real-life difficult experiences and the real choices they made to navigate and pass these difficult times. Tune in today while on your way to work or even while cooking dinner for the family. Please check us out, abundancelegacy.org, to register.
Hey, contact us to see how you can promote your products on According to Sacha Podcast. Entrepreneurship, small business, is something that everybody would love to do, making their own money. And this is what we will be talking about on According to Sacha.
Hey, Rochelle, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Thank you for showing up and being here with us tonight on the According to Sacha Podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. So, I'm familiar about who you are. I know about your business, and your nonprofit, actually. So I want you to take some time and tell everyone out there that's watching and listening, who is Rochelle Campbell?
So Rochelle Campbell is a very compassionate person and just overall enjoys giving to others to give them the needs or support that they need in order to grow. I just look at the different activities that I've been involved in over the years, and even in elementary school, just helping people when they needed help, if they were being teased or anything like that. I just like to give back to people and give what they don't have to make sure that they have the internal being that they are supposed to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's really good to be in that mode of giving back and making impact within your community or, everywhere you go and wherever your presence are. Thank you for serving your community in that way and being that person. So let's go ahead and get into how and why and how it all started with you and your nonprofit, Toiletry and Company. Like, where did it all begin?
So we actually started not from the best point to start a nonprofit, but I was actually bullied at work. And so during the time I was being bullied, and some people call it bullying, some people call it harassment, but to me it was psychological bullying. And I was bullied for over a year and a half. to the point where I had to just take a sabbatical. I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I had to take some time off just to clear my mind, to get myself rebalanced, because I've always been a very good worker, but I was being attacked saying that I wasn't a good worker, that pretty much like you don't matter. Anything that I did was magnified to the 10th degree. And so psychologically, it started to drain me, to make me believe that maybe I'm not a good worker, or maybe, it is something I did look at within myself. However, I took the 3 months off, and during that time, I was able to really find who I was, what my life should entail, and what God put me here to do. And so one day I asked God, God, why me? And God replied back, why not you? Take yourself off your mind and help other people. And so from that day, I started to really really think about what can I do to help others. So what really pinged me was that my family and friends were asking me, did I need assistance with like my mortgage or food or gas? But nobody ever asked me if I needed soap or sanitary napkins. Nobody ever said, hey, how are you washing your clothes? And so this was something that I said, hey, maybe this is what God is saying, take myself off my mind and help other people with this project. So what I started very, very small, and just asking people, hey, when you travel, could you bring me back your items from the hotel? And I would package them. I would either go into the community to provide them to individuals, or I would collaborate with an organization and say, hey, I have all these trial size toiletry items that I would like to donate to, individuals who are in need of personal care items. And so that's actually what birthed Toiletries and Company. And it became such a love of mine that I decided in 2015 to do it as a 501c3 organization.
That's awesome. I really like just listening to you talk, and it's like we never think about the things that happen that kind of pushes us into something that we never thought we would really do, right? And for that to come up and to be in a unique way. Because when you think about nonprofits, a lot of times, we hear people doing your food pantry, your clothes pantry, all these things. But I rarely hear, and I could be, just aloof about stuff, but in this, but I rarely do hear where people are really given toiletry items. And that is very important for a lot of people when it comes down to hygiene. Or, you hear about it going towards like homelessness or homeless people, but you was just like, look, whoever needs it, I have it, and this is what
Right.
we're gonna do. So what has been your collaborative efforts, as far as, building up the nonprofit and the items that you've been giving out? Like, who have you been able to partner with?
So over the years, I've been able to partner with a lot of organizations, just like every other, nonprofit, finding the funding to support it or the monies to keep it going is, it's always been one of those points where at least if I can't do, my mindset at first was like, I have to help like 1 million people a month. But I had to really rein myself back and say, right now, your budget isn't to help $1 million. Whether you help one person or 12 people, you're helping. And so I've collaborated actually with major organizations like the Veterans Hospital. I've worked with a lot of homeless shelters within my community and within the DMV, the District, Maryland, and Virginia area. I've shipped things to Sierra Leone. So it's just partnering and talking to people and, just putting myself out there to let people understand, not just from the germ aspect, but just the psychological aspect, especially for children, especially for people. If you don't look clean, people kind of like shy away from you or don't want to talk to you. So that could be psychologically damaging over time. And so just making sure that people have that bar of soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, lotion, deodorant. It's just like a joy. So whoever I can partner with, or, right now, since the pandemic happened, I would literally just keep toiletry kits in my car. Mm-hmm. And so if I see somebody, stand on the side, or I'm not able to really get out, then I'll say, hey, would you like some toiletries? And just a smile on their faces is just like, oh my gosh, this is really, this is really something that people really want. sometimes people fan you off, like, I don't want, but every time I've never come across a person who was rude, nasty, or disrespectful when I say, hey, would you like some toiletries? They'll either say no, thank you, or they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so needed. So it's a blessing to me.
Yeah, because you never know. I mean, it's like how many times do we find ourselves sometimes like in a rush? You know, we just ran out of deodorant. You know, and you got to go to the store, but maybe you got to go everywhere else first, and you just meet somebody like yourself, and like, hey, you need some toiletries. There might be some deodorant. You know, it's just like the simple things. You never,
Right.
you don't want to take those things for granted, and so that's amazing. So the community that you serve, I know you say you give out to whomever, but is
Mhm.
there a particular group of people that you serve now compared to when you started?
So now I primarily focus, again, because of the pandemic and we couldn't go out, like we typically did. So I do a lot of community partnerships with organizations in my immediate area.
Mhm.
But one of the things I started last year was toiletry closets in Title I schools. And those are schools that have like a higher population of um, poverty. And so with these closets, we donate an average between 50 to like 75 a month and just keep their closet stocked. So the personnel there, I call them toiletry ambassadors because they are my ambassadors. Of course, I couldn't reach the kids. I don't know the kids or the families. So it's just a blessing to have them in place. They know the kids who need it, and the kids are comfortable coming to them and saying, hey, I need a toiletry kit, or hey, I need sanitary napkins. And so we started last year with 4 schools. And right now, because schools are starting back, I just started receiving emails for me to do more schools this upcoming 2023-24 school year.
Oh, that's amazing. That is so awesome. You know, I'm gonna put your website in the chat. So everyone, if you're watching, definitely chime in. You know, let's talk about this because this is a thing that I think is overlooked in a lot of ways. And especially when you're talking about kids in school and, think about bullying and you think about how we were in classes at one point, we were sitting beside that one kid that,
Right.
with the household, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you doing that, it's really like taking things to another level when you're talking about giving back in a way, outside of food and clothes and so forth. So everyone, I have put her website in the chat, and that way you can go online, you can do a donation, monetary, see if you want to like buy up some stuff and see how you can send it to her. However it is, everything is welcomed, and I'm quite sure she'll be gratefully
Right.
thankful for any contribution that you can make. And then remember that, it's 501c3. If you ever want to write off on your she's going to send you the information as well to make sure
Exactly.
you write it off. And so,
Exactly.
so yeah, so, so you serve in schools, you say that you're going to go into more schools this year. So is there like a certain age group or like high school, middle school, or elementary, or all of them?
So we do every grade, um, from elementary to high school. I've tried to like coordinate to work with the feeder schools because those kids are kind of, going to go from one school to the next to the next.
Mhm.
But we work with all ages. We work with, like I said, elementary to high school.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I mean, this could be a question because it could come up. Anybody's watching. I have people from all over watching everywhere. Um, are you ever open to starting this program in any other schools outside of your DMV area?
I am. The one thing I would have to do is, of course, have the staff there and the personnel, and they typically have the person there.
Mhm.
Um, just the stages to get into the school systems was one of the things. And just by the grace of God, I met the person who is responsible for community resourcing. And
Okay.
so once I met her in my school district, it just like spiraled. I literally met her on a Friday. That Monday, I had 5 schools contacting me.
Wow.
Um, but for other school systems and other areas, of course, I welcome it because the thing about toiletries is not that it's one of those things like you might want to have a Corvette or a Lamborghini. Everybody needs soap and toothpaste and toothbrushes. and for young girls and women need sanitary products. So it's not one of the things like you can just like, oh, you can bypass that or you can put that to the side. Everybody every day, needs these necessities. And it's not just because of the germs. Like I said, it's the psychological part that comes with it, the self-esteem, and especially for young children, just getting into the school systems and things like that. So yes, we're welcoming and opening arms to help as many as we can.
Yeah. And then also too, sitting here listening and I'm thinking like, even in times of disaster, like that is, some of the things that's always on that list as well, whether it's hurricanes or anything, situations. And I think of like, there's a one manufacturer, P&G, they have been really good about having, their Tide truck go out with the washing machines and
Right.
wash people's clothes. So it's like I'm thinking about all those things when I'm thinking about your organization and your nonprofit and the things that you do. And it's just phenomenal. It really is. So, and I know that so we already talked about the schools. You're launching into more schools. Congratulations for that. And that's in the Charles City County area of Maryland. So if you're in the DMV area, you guys, in Charles City County, and you want to connect with Rochelle and Toiletry and Company, once again, the website is in the chat. And definitely reach out to her, see how you can work with her. But not only just contribution, but also, how can you volunteer? How can you be a support in other ways? Because I know they're going to want to do a lot of great things coming up in 2024, and you want to be a part of it. And so I want to get into this part here because you have a program that I think is very, very dope. And it's the Period Poverty Program. Let's talk about that for a little while.
So I'm not sure how young girls were introduced to their menstrual cycle. I didn't have like a blueprint that I was introduced to say, hey, here's your menstrual cycle. This is what's going to happen. Here's the products and, things that you need. You have to do. I didn't have any of that. I literally was just given some sanitary napkins and was just like, have at it. Like no education with it, no understanding. And so to stop that type of education, I'm starting a period poverty program for young girls to have the education on, what your menstrual cycle is, what it looks like, what it feels like, how do you handle it, the mood swings, just being, clean when you're on your cycle, how to properly dispose of your product once you finish, especially in a public restroom. And then also providing the support, the kits to go with it. This past summer, I'm not sure, a lot of people are not really familiar with the process of how Girl Scouts work, but they have to do certain community service programs. And in the service program, one of the groups actually did the period poverty packing. And so their group talked about the importance of cycles. However, the community part was that they donated those products to Toiletries and Company. And so they collected them, they packaged them, they had educators there to talk to them about the importance and, just giving them the background basically and the understanding of what a menstrual cycle is, how it works. And this is, what you're going to have to do once it does show up, if it hasn't already shown up. So that's and that's going to also be in the school system as well.
Awesome. Yeah, because I know, I don't know what they do in school systems these days, but I know when I was in school, they always had roll the TV in. Okay, guys, I'm not dating myself or anything or Rochelle, but we all know that back in those times, we had the TVs and they would have the videos and they would talk about that cycle in that part of a life. And when you get into the adolescent as a young girl and everything, but none of that really prepared you. I mean, you watch it and you paying attention, not paying attention. But when it happens, sorry guys, you can listen. But, yes, we are talking about this because it's a thing. It's real. So, but it's like when it happens, that stuff goes out the window. Everything that you probably watch, whatever. So it really doesn't still prepare you for being in that moment.
Exactly.
And then when it does, a lot of times it is by surprise, or it's like, just thinking about a young girl who probably, household, or, they're low income, or maybe mom is in between paychecks or whatever. And it happens. It's like, okay, what's next?
Right.
Something like that, or dad is in between, or whatever. So I really think that is really, really important and good that you're doing this and bringing this into the school systems. Like I said, I don't things change so much
Right.
in the school system now, like we don't know what's there now. But the thing is, bringing that and introducing that to the kids in the school, the young girls, and how that can like really, really prepare them to be in a better situation and knowing how to do these things. So that's really, really awesome, you guys. So we got people chiming in. Hey BJ, hey Mickey. Um, if anybody got any questions, hi Gabe. Gabe says he's enjoying the conversation this evening. Thank you so much. And we have Marisa. Hello, 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 everyone. Yeah, thank y'all for chiming in and showing up. And so, you're also an author.
Yes, I am.
You're also an author, and you're a part of the Own It family.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, you're one of the 57 authors of the Amazon's best-selling Own It anthology. And so let's talk about your chapter that you had in that.
So my chapter was actually because of what I went through at work. People, you can walk around smiling and get back to some level of normalcy in life. But when you don't really deal with the psychological part that still lingers inside of you when you're bullied, or, just mentally drained from somebody telling you that you are not good enough.
Mm.
At some point you break. You either break or you break through. And so I had to break through because I could not just see myself sitting and stewing in that type of situation where somebody just kept telling me, you're not good enough. Mm-hmm. So my chapter was actually titled Unplugging from Psychological Trauma. Mm. And so moving forward and understanding that the people that were there to pull me down actually elevated me to do better. They actually helped me to become an author. They actually helped me to launch my nonprofit organization. And so releasing myself from all the things that they were saying to me or how they were treating me, when I started to unplug from everything, I started connecting what they did to me actually elevated me. Mm-hmm. And so tearing back all of those different layers for me to unplug from. I mean, because it was detrimental where sometimes I would just be sitting there and tears would just kind of run down my face, because if you're sitting somewhere and you're grown. I wasn't like 16, like I was in my mid-career when this happened. And somebody's yelling at you, telling you you're incompetent and like, what are you doing? You don't know that is trauma, you know what I mean? And it comes back, and it maybe don't come back like that day or that month, mm-hmm. but it just comes back. And so for me to write that chapter, it not only helped me, but I pray to God that it helps somebody else who's gone through a similar situation or a traumatic situation where they have to regain themselves and pull through.
Yeah, that's awesome. It just unplugging and exactly what you said you did, in the beginning, you unplugged, you stepped back, but it also plugged you into something greater to have a greater impact in your community and more, actually.
Right.
Yeah, so that's that's wonderful. So before we head out, I know that there are people out here that are interested in starting a nonprofit. You maybe considered it or played around with the thoughts. So how hard was it for you to really get everything situated to where you had your 501c3 and get started with it?
So I'm going to let you know, it wasn't hard at all because I had an agency to do it for me. Like, I know what my skills, aptitudes, and abilities are. And so I didn't even when they kept telling me oh, you have to make sure this is filed and this is registered. So the agency that helped me was amazing. Like, they literally just was like, okay, so what do you want? What's your concept? We got it. Mm-hmm. When I finished with them, I had a beautiful binder with all of my information in it. And you do have to do some work if you're doing it on your own. You definitely have to do a lot of work because you have to make sure all your filings and everything is in place. And different states require different requirements. So for my state, my board, I had to prove that everybody on my board, I had to provide their resume, provide their title, provide their experience. And so it can be very overwhelming and daunting if that's not what your skill set is. So, like I said, I went through an agency, and one of the things that originally kept scaring me away because everybody was like, "Oh, I had to pay $7,000 for my nonprofit or $6,000." I didn't have to. They didn't charge that much, and so if I had just said, "Oh, everybody said that," I just said, "No, let me find out for myself." And they really didn't charge that much. They did put the fees in there for your filing, but it wasn't as much as people said. So if you want to do it for agents with an agency, if you don't have the skills, aptitudes, and abilities, that's the best way to go. However, if you don't, you do have to do, several stages to be able to get the federal side, your state side, all of the documents, your articles of incorporation, your bylaws. So all of those things that you would have to do, which to me is very challenging.
Yeah, and it can, because like you said, it's a daunting process just having to sit there and pull all those pieces together.
Right.
Yeah. But it's always good to find a reputable company or
Right.
agency that can really do the work for you. So thank you for sharing those tips with the audience. And I thank you so much for being here. Let me throw your information up here.
I thank
And
you for having me.
you're so welcome. You're so welcome. And
Having
once
a
again,
conversation.
everybody. Yeah, so I got your social media and everything up here.
Okay.
So you guys follow Rochelle, follow Toiletry and Company, and just keep up with what they're doing. Once again, the website is in the chat, and that way, and it's also in the show notes too for the podcast. But you want to go ahead and see how you can contribute, whether it's financially or in kind contributions, or just with your support if you're in the local DMV area. Or like I said, if you're abroad, you want to send things in, I'm quite sure she'll gladly take it. And then if you have any schools out there and you feel like this program, with the toiletry closet, or even with the period poverty program is needed in your school, reach out to her and see how y'all can work together and get that started. I'm quite sure that the kids there in your area and Rochelle and her whole team will be so grateful for that. And but yeah, once again, Rochelle, thank you so much for being here. If you have final words of wisdom, what will you give to the people tonight?
So I guess my final words, in which I had to learn throughout the process, is just help one person. We can't always help 1,000,000, 1,000, 100, but if you can just help one person, and it doesn't have to be $1,000,000. It can be a toiletry kit. It could be sanitary products. But helping one person helps that person to develop, to grow, to be educated, their self-esteem. So that would be my gift.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You heard it here. You heard it from Rochelle. Help one person, you guys, just one person at a time. And then that can turn into 2, 3, 4, however you're going to do it, with at least one person. And the greatest part about that is when you help that one person, that person may help another person. So you light it up like wildfire and just keep on passing it forward. So on that note, everyone, I want you to command your day and be great in everything you do. And we'll see you next Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.